In a sentence, how do you define your role as a team leader this year? There's definitely there's some commonality here too, in the sense that many of you see yourselves as facilitators. Here you are in terms of even like resource facilitation, whatever you see your team needing, provisioning that for them or making the argument so they can have it. Leading staff collaboration to improve and promote positive education. One of the things I like about that is there's a level of specificity to it that will make your personal mission easier to monitor and evaluate because it's in reference to something specific. Now, when we take a look at one of the studies that I really like to break out and review into much more deeper context, it's Project Aristotle by Google. And what they did is they went out to try to understand, what makes an effective team? What is effective teaming? And through that, they came up with some definitions because they said in order to have an effective team, we need to define what team is. What is that expectation? And they differentiated teams based into two classifications. You're either a working group, which effectively is, each member of this unit of organization is reporting into a supervisor. I'm doing this work, what do I need to do next? And it's really kind of one-to-one. Even though there might be a team of 12 people, there's one person who's really just kind of checking in with all of them. And you can imagine if you're leading a very big department, checking in with 12 people can be very difficult. Now with teams, they're very highly interdependent. They're very highly interdependent because they're working towards one purpose. There might be many things that people need to do on a team or check in with each other, and these things I call transactional. We need to make sure we get our lesson plans done and our unit planning, assessment, grades, a lot of the administrative tasks that are going to be expected of us. The question is how much of that work can we do with each other? How much of that work can we lean on each other for? And specifically, how much or what specifically can we be working towards? What specific purpose can only be done if all of us work together? Is according to Google's Project Aristotle's definition of team, have you accepted this role, the role that you're entering into the school year with? Have you accepted it to supervise a working group? That's your expectation at this stage. Or do you want to lead a team towards achieving some specific purpose, getting them to work together? Now, I was in Shenzhen earlier this week, and I did the same exercise with a full faculty. I was on Tuesday, actually. And we had over 100 staff. And that grid, when we looked at it, when I said to them, I changed the question a bit, saying, have you entered this school year wanting to be part of a working group or part of a team? 25% of the faculty chose working group based on their expectations for coming into the school year. 75% wanted to be part of a team. So, when you think about that type of question and using, and this is one of my first lessons for you to what you can do with your team as an exercise or an activity, pose this question to them. Guys, what are we this year? Are we going to be a working group where I'm just checking on your work and telling you what you need to get done? Or we are a team where we're going to put in the extra time to do work? So this becomes the first opportunity for you to engage with them around that type of conversation because it sets the expectation. The next question I would invite you to answer is, what degree of interdependency do you want your team to have? So now this is interesting because when I reflect on, say, this result, reflecting the will of this group, and we'd like to see practice modified based on feedback. And in many respects, as a team leader, you're going to be expected to facilitate this process. I've scaffolded these activities as well based on how they need to occur. So when we take a look at goals, if our expectation is modify practice based on feedback, the method in which this would work is you're beginning with the end in mind. We know we want to modify practice. So knowing that, what areas of practice do we want to modify, that becomes our collaborative goal. Based on that collaborative goal, we start designing units that will demonstrate and be able to specifically identify, if we're achieving that area of growth if we're able to demonstrate it, if we're able to observe it, if we're able to actually modify it. Well, to do that, we need to take a look at the student work that is being produced from these unit plans connected to the practice that we want to modify. And then on top of that, once we've done that, we're looking at and going into the classroom with each other to then see how that student work was produced, giving the feedback, and then leading to modify practice. So the way this is actually scaffolded and the way that you actually develop and capacity build your team towards this end really starts with the goals and having a level of specificity in terms of that goal that leads to the area of practice that you want to modify. What I want to start working towards with you is developing your interpersonal skills so that you can develop dependencies amongst team members so that you'll go from perhaps managing each individual, making sure they're getting their work done, or even perhaps getting individuals to pair up and do work, to getting everybody actually responsible for each other. Because when you become an interpersonal middle leader, that becomes a very huge responsibility. When you're focusing on the relationships and not the tasks, that takes just as much time. So if you're focusing on tasks and relationships, when do you have time to do your planning? When do you have time to attend to your students' needs? You're going to be doing more work than you need to be. So to get to that team level, you need to find a way and develop those management and interpersonal skills to get the team to take care of the team. And then you're that sort of overlayer that actually is kind of looking to make sure that everybody's playing fairly and at the same time meeting expectations. How do we achieve that? Well, ultimately, and you will get a copy of all these slides, you need to take on challenges. You need to do more work than you expected to do. Just by having this role, you've agreed to it whether you believe it or not, or whether you want to accept it or not, to do 2 to 3 hours extra work per week. So to lead a team is minimum going to take 2 to 3 extra hours per week, just because of that interpersonal aspect of it. Not to mention the administrative that builds on it. So if you're going to do that work, make it purposeful for yourself. Identify challenges. A difficult conversation with a team member shouldn't be a challenge. It should be shouldn't be unwelcome. It should be an opportunity to learn and develop. So you got to change that mindset between this is something I have to do to something, hey, how can I do this better? That's how leaders develop. And when they do that, they continue to learn through this process of seeing things as opportunities for develop. They take that upon themselves. There is a rule called the 70-20-10 rule. For leadership development, 70% of your development resides with you. You have to, it's your version and ability to demonstrate agentic learning. 20% is actually being mentored or coached. That's why in this program I include your supervisors in base camp. It's very important to me that they know what you're learning so that they can have conversations with you. If they're not having conversations with you, they're not contributing to your learning or empowering you. 10% is actually me. A lot of people come out of my workshops. My job for that 10% of leadership development is to introduce you to tools, to help you understand the background with those tools, some possible applications for those tools. But no way can I show you every application, nor even when I introduce that tool, may it be applicable at that point. It's going to be up to you at some point to try to apply it. It may not work. But through leadership development, and say that 20%, that's an opportunity for you to go to one of your supervisors and say, hey, I learned this from Mike. I tried it in this context. I didn't get the result I wanted. What happened? Now you're having that conversation. You're taking that information, you're applying it again, and in many ways, you might actually also be customizing it towards your own unique purpose and context. So understand that you also have different contexts.